Welcome to the Fantasy Aceball podcast. This is your host, Tim Kanak. You can find me on X at Fantasy Aceball. You can also find the video version of this podcast on YouTube at the Tim Kanak. So you can look at my pretty face. No, I'm going to show you stuff. That's the purpose, not for you to just look at my face. If you are watching, though, you can see that I am solo today because if you did not know, my boy, Doc Eisenhower, is an actor. That's one of his many professions. He's a jack of all trades. He's an actor. And he's actually filming a movie in Arizona this week. So, my boy, Doc Eisenhower, if you're wondering where he's at, he is filming a movie. So he can't be here in Arizona, getting paid to act, which is awesome. So look him up, Darren Eisenhower. If you're curious, check him out. His acting, give him a role. If you're a fan, let's get my boy Doc some more roles. Anyway, this week, it's gonna be short because I'm by myself. We're gonna talk about some in-person looks I got. If you're interested in more in-person looks that I've received, listen to the Eyes Have It podcast with Chris Blessing. I recorded that with him last night and talked about a bunch of the prospects that I've been able to see so far this season. And it's a good pod, and he's a good dude. So check that out, the Eyes Have It with Chris Blessing. And I will be on that podcast. It's coming out Wednesday, the same day that this podcast is coming out. And I don't want to be too repetitive, so I will avoid trying to repeat some of the same things and try to keep things open so you can see different things. But what I'm going to do right now, over my face, I'm going to show you some video that I got from Andrew Painter and Eduardo Tait. And then you see Tait got hit right in the hand right there. So this is some of the video that you'll catch on the YouTube channel. Tait goes down, stays in the game. Dude is tough, man. Here he is later in the game. You can see big frame. Here's his swing. I got him in slow-mo here, make it a swing. So you can check out the swing mechanics. And my boy, Eduardo Tait, just hit another home run today. Fourth, I think, in the last 10 games for Tait. You see there he is just, bashing into the ground, but you can see the mechanics there in the swing. I think I got him hitting a single here too before we get into Painter. So here we go. Here's a single from Mr. Tait, I believe, if you're watching. And you can see this dude is a big dude, physically fit. Like he looks, and I mentioned, he reminds me of a lefty Contreras. Like he looks in the box like a Contreras brother. You'd see big bodied dude, athletic dude, tons of power. He looks like a Contreras, but he's lefty. Here's Painter now that you're watching. He's like 6'7", huge dude. Was throwing 96, 98 on the fastball. First inning was primarily fastball when I saw him. You see I've got the velos, cutter, 90, 91. So I put all my stat because I was keeping track of what he was throwing and like what speeds he was throwing at during the game. But if you want to check out, I've got all the strikeouts on here. He actually started the game off with a 3-pitch strikeout on the first guy. And I think it was like 3 fastballs. He's 99 right there, actually, on that pitch on the stadium gun. But if you want to watch, you can check out all the video of Andrew Painter on the YouTube channel. I think I have like every single pitch from this outing. And he went 3 innings. I talked to a scout before the game. He was supposed to go 3 innings. So he did what he was supposed to do. Here's Travis Honeyman actually hitting right here against Andrew Painter. Honeyman is an interesting prospect. He was the Cardinals' 3rd rounder last year, and he's hitting like 500 this year. And I believe he was injured to start the season. You can see he's a tall dude. Like he reminds me of Randall Grichuk in the box, tall socks and everything like that. Like he's you can see, look at him. He reminds me, if you're a Cardinals fan, you look at this dude, you're like, yeah, it looks like Randall Grichuk 2.0. Even the whole stance and everything, the socks, just like everything about Honeyman here looks like Randall Grichuk right there in the box. But Grichuk Honeyman is hitting like 500 this year, and I think he's hit in every single game. So he is way too good for A-ball. I mean, he's like 22, 23. So he should definitely be in like AA by now based on the age. So I'm going to keep this rolling here if you're just interested to watch this video as I get into the T10, the top 10 prospects for this week. Because like I said, I'm by myself. It's probably going to be a quickie. Number 1 is Jordan Lawler. How is this dude not up yet? I have no idea. By the way, Nick Kurtz finally gets the call after being number 1 for 2 weeks, right? in the T10. But we got Jordan Lawler here, so hopefully this can push Jordan Lawler into getting called up, putting him in the T10 at the top of the T10 this week. But he was 8 for 22 last week with 5 extra base hits, 3 home runs, and 5 steals. And I'm going to see if I can pull up his batted ball profile right now while we're watching Andrew Painter, because I'm solo. I don't have anyone else to talk while I'm like pulling stuff up like I normally do. So I'm going to try to pull up Lawler's profile so far this season in the minors while we're watching some beautiful Andrew Painter pitching here. So give me one quick second. If you're listening, you're like, oh, what is this guy doing here? So you can see Painter. If you're watching, we're going to go ahead now and share screen to my boy John Anderson's tableau. John PGH is the follow on Twitter. Follow him. Follow Doc. And you can see here what Lawler has done so far at the AAA level. The EVs are not really anything too impressive, I would say, but he is making really good contact, even though he only has a 74% contact rate, which is like a little below average, really. Swing percentage, he's not like super aggressive either in the box, but he's making it work. You see, he's got 5 bombs already in the season, over 1,000 OPS. And last week, 5 extra base hits, 3 homers, and 3 steals. So he's doing things. And you can see here, there's like, for whatever reason, his OBP is way higher against righties. But the average and the slug are the same. I think that's just a small sample size against the lefties thing, because he's only had 13 plate appearances against lefties, more than like him having just a better eye against righties. I think it's a small sample size thing. So that is Jordan Lawler. And who we're going to look at next is in high A. I can't even bring up stats for him for this year because high A, of course, has nothing for us statistically. But I'm going to bring up Daniel Egan with the Diamondbacks. Egan was a 3rd rounder for the D-backs in 2024, did not debut until this season. And last week in one start, he pitched 6 innings with 12 strikeouts, 0 walks, 0 ERA, 0.5 whip. And in 3 starts this season, he has a 19.1% swinging strike rate on the year. So obviously we cannot look up any of his StatCast data as far as pitch arsenals, but what we can do is look at his game logs because we will have that information. So here's Daniel Egan. You can see his 3 starts here. His first start was not great, but second start, 10 strikeouts, 1 walk, and third start, 12 strikeouts, 0 walks. He is really rolling right now. You can see the K rates, 55%, 55%, like just absolutely insane stuff from him the last 2 times out for Daniel Egan. So he is my number 2 prospect in the T2 this week. Number 3 is another high A pitcher. This is a guy that I liked last year. It is Yordany Monegro with the Boston Red Sox. So Monegro has only had 2 starts so far this season. And you can see that last time out in 4 innings, he had 9 strikeouts, 0 walks, 0 earned runs, and a 1 whip. And in these 2 starts, he's got 15 strikeouts and 1 walk on the season. You can see he's throwing a ton of strikes. This is one of the things I love about Monegro. Look at this, 60% strike rate last time out, 53.2 the first time. So he's throwing a ton of strikes. I think Monegro is a really good starter, and he's one to look at. Again, high A, double A, we don't have Arsenal data, unfortunately, for him. So all I can do is look up his Arsenal data on John's tableau from last year if I wanted to find out his Arsenal data, but that's not going to give us a read onto what he's doing this season. That's just going to tell what he was doing last season. And with prospects and young players, you have pretty incremental growth between seasons. You get a decent amount of growth. So it's hard to really understand. Like, guys add and drop pitches, guys add 2 ticks of velo like Thomas White did last year. Like, there's all kinds of things in between seasons, especially for pitchers. Less so for hitters. Hitters are a little more structural in their growth. And like, I don't want to say it's more linear, but it is more linear than pitching, if that makes sense. Like, a pitcher, all they have to do is add a new pitch and all of a sudden they can be great. Hitters, there's a bit of more of a process. It's like, okay, as long as they have good plate skills, it's pretty linear. If they don't have good plate skills, then it's all about adjustments and developing good plate skills, and that's what makes them good. So number 4 is going to be another hitter. It is Dylan Beavers. I'm going to pull Beavers up here on our chart so we can check out what Beavers is doing. But Dylan Beavers is in AAA, and last week he had 3 extra base hits, 2 home runs, and 3 steals. So Dylan Beavers is a power speed guy. He's almost like going to be the replacement for Cedric Mullins in a way. Like he's got a similar tools aspect, I guess, to Mullins, where it's like, okay, the one thing about Beavers that he really needs to work on is the hit tool. Um, he's got power, he's got speed. So like I feel like he's just when Mullins is gone, he's gonna fit right into the role. He's a lefty too, big lefty outfielder, 6'5". And then like he's very BABIP driven, so just very tools oriented. It's almost like a Jose Siri type profile. Like I hope the hit tool can come around better than Siri. He's bigger, and I think he's got a bit more pedigree and can do more than a Jose Siri. But like kind of what he does in the minors is pretty BABIP fueled. So hopefully he can cut down the Ks, and the contact rate is not even atrocious. You see 77%. But like I feel like he should have a higher batting average than he does based on his speed, with average-ish contact numbers. But probably the reason he doesn't is because for whatever reason, look at this. This is a very weird hard hit data here. 92 average exit velocity is amazing, but then he only has a 105 EV90 and a 108 max. So that's kind of weird. These are a little light for having a 92 average EV, but he does have a 36% line drive rate on the season, so that's pretty awesome. So he is barreling the crap out of the ball. We can say that pretty confidently for Mr. Dylan Beavers here, who is number 4 in the T4. So number 5, another pitcher, and this guy we actually do have Arsenal data for, so I'm going to pull him up. This is Chase Petty, who we heard a lot about in the offseason here, or in the spring training season here, because he had a big spring. I was really, really high on Chase Petty like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. I was like, I know he's going to get the velo back. He was only throwing like 92, 93. He had hit 100 before. I was pretty confident in him getting the velo back. You can see he's averaging closer to 96 right now on the fastball, which is excellent, especially because he was around like 93 a couple of years ago, which is probably why he's like so much better right now than he was before. But last week in 2 starts, he went 9 2/3 innings with 12 Ks, 3 walks, 1.86 ERA, and a 1.14 WHIP. But looking at the arsenal here, this is something great. 15% strikeout rate on the fastball is pretty phenomenal, and almost 18% on the slider, and then 17% on the changeup, and then even 14% on the sweeper. So by swing strikeout rate standards, even though we're going to be downgrading this 2 or 3% when we go from AAA to the majors, that makes the sweeper about average, or it's probably below average for a sweeper, but it's average for a major league pitch. The CSW would still be good. He's getting a lot of called strikes on the sweeper. See a very high strike rate on the sweeper, actually. Kind of weird when your best or like most accurate pitch location wise on your strike percentage here is your sweeper. Usually the sweeper is getting thrown outside of the zone, not in the zone. So that's pretty interesting. You can see it does have a high barrel rate against it, though. So that's probably why you don't want that sweeper landing in the zone. You want that to sweep out of the zone. So kind of weird diagnostic here on the sweeper. But we can see, he's got at least 3+ pitches here between the fastball, slider, and changeup. Sweeper is okay. And he's got also this 95-mile-per-hour sinker, which has a 0% barrel rate against on 34 pitches. You could also see the slider has a 0% barrel rate against out of 78 pitches, which is excellent and is generating a lot of ground balls, just like the sinker is. So he has a really nice pitch mix here, and what he's doing right now, it's working. So I think that Chase Petty is a guy that I wouldn't want to say he's going to be up again before Rhett Lauder, but if he was, it wouldn't really surprise me because he's performing at a very high level right now. And if Alexis Diaz can't come around, like Chase Petty could always tick it up a couple miles per hour if he's pitching out of the bullpen. He could be throwing 98. I feel like if he was in the pen just for a year, like if the Reds had to, because they're like, Alexis Diaz sucks, Francona wants to win, Petty could be a pretty lights out closer if they wanted to make that happen. But I think he's good enough to be a starter. I was kind of on the edge with him as if he's going to be a closer starter for a couple of years, but I think he's got it. I think he's pretty safe now to be a starter based on the arsenal that he's showing. You see he's actually throwing these things at a pretty good mix here between all these pitches, mostly 4-seam slider, but the sweeper, changeup, sinker, 36, 35, 34 pitches. So he's throwing all these things at a pretty nice percentage-wise, like pretty wide arsenal here for Chase Petty. Definitely a starter's arsenal. Who we're going to talk about next is number 6. This is Spencer Jones. He had 4 extra base hits last week, and all 4 were home runs, and he also had 2 steals, but he also had a ton of strikeouts. So classic Spencer Jones profile here. 6 for 25, 4 bombs, 2 steals, and a bunch of strikeouts. That's what you're going to get from Spencer Jones. But you know what? For fantasy, if he's doing that, you'll take it. If you're going to get here Joey Gallo with speed and he hits enough to hit like 230 or 240, like hopefully, I think his speed is good enough that he could beat out a lot of grounders and maybe hit 250, even with like a 30. I mean, like this is the thing. If you have a 37% K rate in the minors in AA, that's probably going to translate to like 45% in the majors, which you're not going to make it then. But if he has a 35% strikeout rate in the majors and he's hitting this many bombs and he's stealing this many bags, I think he's a guy that can actually make it fantasy viable. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be fun to watch, except for the homers, just watch him fly away. He's a huge dude at 6'6", but I think he can make it happen. This is a guy, number 7, that I've wanted to talk about for a while here, and we're going to pull up his data because this is a guy who I've like wanted to put him in my top 10 every week so far. So we're going to look at before we look at his arsenal, we're going to look at his game logs. But Sean Lennon with the Dodgers is an A-ball. And you can see in 3 starts. First start, 11 strikeouts, 1 walk, and 61 pitches. Second start, 8 strikeouts, 1 walk, and 73 pitches. Third start, 10 strikeouts, 1 walk, and 78 pitches. That is insane. You can also see he's throwing a ton of strikes. He is not throwing the ball. He's not walking. A 5% walk rate, like really low ball percentage, really high strike percentage. This is a really interesting name to watch here. Sean Lennon with the Dodgers, Linan, because the Dodgers have a ridiculously deep system. I don't even know where he ranks on it, if he was like in their top 25 and like most people's things. The one thing, like the knock that he's going to get is he's only 6 foot, 185 pounds. So that's the knock that you're going to hear on Sean Lennon. But this dude has been completely lights out so far, and he's 20. He should probably be getting the call to high A sooner rather than later. We should have Arsenal data on him. If we don't, it's just because their stadium sucks in Arizona, wherever the Dodgers play in Arizona, because he's an A-ball. But it looks like we do not have Arsenal data on him, unfortunately. But he does have a 24.5% swing strike rate so far this season across the board, and a 38.2% CSW. So quite insane for Mr. Sean Lennon, my number 7 prospect on the T10 this week. Number 8, this is a high A hitter. We are talking about George Lombard Jr. I talked about him on the Eyes Have It podcast, so I'm not going to go too deep into my look on him from this year or for last year. But what I'm going to do is we're going to look at statistically what he's been doing this year. Statistically, so far this season, he has been walking more than he strike out. 22% walk rate, 20% strikeout rate. He has a 333, 500, 487 line, 500 OBP. I think that'll play, right? I think that'll play. 3 extra base hits, 1 bomb, 7 steals. I mentioned on the Eyes Have It that he has like a batted ball profile, or I mean, like not really a batted ball profile. He has a plate skills profile of a Gunnar Henderson when Gunnar Henderson was coming up. Now he's more speed oriented and less power oriented. And something that you see here you do not like. A 60%, 9% contact rate is quite terrible. So we see here, good eye, 7 steals so far on the season, good speed, meh power. He did add muscle, and I think he's going to keep getting bigger. He already proved that he can add a decent amount of muscle in one offseason. So maybe he does it again a couple more times because he's still 19 years old. He's listed at 6'2", 190, so maybe he can get to 6'2", 210 or something like that of muscle eventually when he's closer to his peak. So we might get more power from him. With that frame, you could probably get 20, 25 homers, especially with his eye. It's just we need to see this contact rate go up from him, and we need to see the swing rate go up. He is too patient at this 33% level. This is like a Twins prospect. This is what you see from Edouard Julien. This is what you see from like former, like old Lars Nootbaar before this year. Nootbaar is actually getting too patient now, like the last week. I need to see him swinging more. I want swings. I want people to be aggressive in the zone. 33.3% swing rate is not going to cut it unless you're talking about points leagues here. For fantasy viability here from George Lombard Jr. But play skills are all there. Speed's there. 5 steals. That's why I talked about him. 7 for 15 last week with 6 walks and 5 steals. So in only 4 games for George Lombard Jr. with the Yankees. Number 9. This is a big up-and-coming name. People have been talking about him, especially the Welsh. The Welsh has talked a lot about Kendall George. He's seen him a decent amount. So Kendall George last week, 8 for 26 with 5 walks, 4 extra base hits, 3 home runs, and 2 steals with the Dodgers. So looking at Kendall George, obviously, again, he's in high A. We don't have exit velocity numbers. We're missing StatCast data. But what we do have is we have a standard triple slash of what he's done here on the season. You can see all 3 of his home runs on the season were all last week. And you can see he walks a decent amount. Despite a 25% K rate, he's also walking at like a 17 or 18% walk rate. It's a little Emmanuel Rodriguez-like, right? Except a higher swing rate, 42.5, higher than Lombard, higher than like an Emmanuel Rodriguez. 73.1% contact rate. That's okay. Like you'd like to see that better. Especially, because I believe he is 20. Let me look that up real quick. So at high A, yeah, he's 20 years old. And one of the things for Kendall George, he's 5'9", 170 pounds. So he's a little dude. But I think he's got the power in there. He's like a fire hydrant type build at 170 for 5'9". So I think, even though he had no power last year, 1 home run and 36 steals, I think that this power is probably real. I think we might get a little more power. Like he's not going to be like a 25 homer guy, but I think we could probably get like 15 homers out of him. And I would like to see him steal more bags because so far this season, 7 bags stolen, 4 caught stealing. That's pretty bad. 4 caught stealing. But Kendall George used the first-round pick from the Dodgers back in 2023. So keep him on your radar. And we're going to talk about here another first-round pick. Or actually, it's a second-round pick, but he's like the first pick out of the second round for the White Sox last year. And that is Caleb Bonham, my number 10 prospect for this week. So Caleb Bonham, let's bring his profile up here if you're watching on YouTube so you can check out his stats on the screen. But he's an A-ball for the White Sox. Last week, 8 for 19, 4 extra base hits, 1 home run, and 3 steals. And again, unfortunately, on the West Coast, we're not getting A-ball StatCast data, only here in the Florida State League. So we have no EV numbers from Caleb Bonham, but you can see he's hitting 319, 452, 532 on the year with the 1 bomb, also 1,000 OPS. And you love this, 16% walk rate, 19% K rate. The walk rate is really high. K rate is below 20. So that's a great thing. And it's 75% contact rate here for Caleb Bonham. So this is a name to watch here in Bonham. He hasn't really gotten much talk. Like I haven't really heard anyone say anything about him, but he's a shortstop or third baseman. Like he's listed as both on Fangraphs. The White Sox paid him $3 million, so he got good money when they picked him. 6'1", 195 pounds. So he's an interesting name. The one thing to watch for him, as far as like scout perspective, is maybe not a great hit tool. But when I see a 75% contact rate, that's pretty good. That's decent enough for a 19-year-old in A-ball right now. So Caleb Bonham, interesting name to watch out of last year's draft. And he didn't get any run last year. So this is his debut, quote unquote, that we're seeing right now. So Caleb Bonham is T10 for this week. And honorable mention, I'm going to give you some honorable mentions here. We're just going to buzz through some of these guys real quick on the list. Roman Anthony is hitting the crap out of the ball. We're just going to highlight what he's doing so far at AAA. 4 bombs, 415 OBP. But you can see an average exit velocity of almost 99 miles per hour is insane. And EV 90 is almost 110. Max EV is 113. So Roman Anthony is hitting the crap out of the ball right now at AAA. He's walking. He should be up sooner than later. He's good enough right now to be in the majors. The contact rate is not the best, 66%. I've mentioned before that, like, when I watch him, he reminds me of Kanak when he's coming up as a prospect. So, I mean, is always that fear, but because the contact rate is not amazing, like his hit tool is his worst tool. But plate skills are great, power is amazing, game power is great, speed's there. It's just the hit tool. We need to make sure that comes around. And this is not something we don't want to see. 32.5% swing rate. We want him to swing more than that, especially in the zone. Hopefully, these are bad pitches that he's not swinging at. But again, this is a little Emmanuel Rodriguez like. It's a little scary to see a swing rate that low. Now we're going to look at Kobe Mayo. Kobe Mayo had a pretty big week last week. You could see he's doing pretty well in AAA after a bad start. After last week, I think he had 3 home runs last week. The power numbers are all still here for Kobe Mayo. Maybe he's going to move to first base. Gotta love a 27% line drive rate. Gotta love the fact he's only hitting the ball on the ground 29% of the time. He's hitting the ball in the air. We do not have a Jordan Walker problem here with Kobe Mayo, 17% barrel rate. So Kobe Mayo looking good so far. Just keep an eye on that one. Next, AA honorable mentions. We're going to go to JJ Weatherholt. He had an insane week last week. Look at his numbers so far in AA. 364 batting average, 453 OBP, 523 slug, and only an 11% K rate, 9% walk rate, and an 87% contact rate. That is phenomenal. This is like a 70 grade hit tool that we're seeing from JJ Weatherholt here. At least 65. Swing rate too. He's swinging the ball. So we're seeing across the board here, and he hits the ball really hard. It's cold. He's in Springfield. It's colder there right now, I think. So we're going to see more power come around as the summer heats up. He hits the ball really hard. So I'm not worried about Weatherholt home runs and speed. I think he's going to be a 2020 player who will have a really good batting average. I said before when he was drafted, I think he's going to have like a Marcus Semien like career. Maybe lead off or hit second, tons of runs, 2020, year in, year out. Probably a better batting average, better hit tool than Semien. Semien had a rough hit tool coming up. Weatherholt does not have that problem. I think he's going to be basically Semien with a better hit tool. Next guy that we're going to talk about here, we're going to have no Arsenal data for this guy. Everybody's talking about him. Nolan McLean. No longer a hitter, only a pitcher. Actually, I think it's Nolan McLean, not McLean, like Mr. Clean. But the main thing for McLean is the slider is freaking sick. Just look it up. The problem is his first start was great, and his second 2 starts, he's had walk issues here. So high walk rates, way more balls. You see this first start, 67% strike rate, 23% ball rate. That has changed. He is not doing that now. So I've seen people adding him in a lot of leagues. Just be weary that he doesn't have the best control. Now, that might not be a George Klassen issue, who we're going to bring up next here, who's my next honorable mention for pitchers here, who went 8 strikeouts, 0 walks last time out. You see right here even, this is going to be what Klassen's success is based on, is how many strikes is he throwing versus how many balls. When he did what he did this last time out, almost a 60% strike rate, look how efficient and look how good he was. 26.6% swinging strike rate. That's what we need from George Klassen, because he has phenomenal stuff, but his command sucks. Like, as someone who saw him live last year, he could. This is going to be a Joe Boyle thing for him. Like, he could be a really good starter if he can harness the command. Otherwise, he's in the pen. Other honorable mentions. I'm not going to bring up every single player here because it's just too many people. Zaire Hope keeps hitting the crap out of the ball. I will bring up Ben Hess's data here because he was a T10 last week, and he probably deserved a T10 again this week based on his performance, but I'm not going to throw him on here twice. 9 strikeouts, 2 walks. So another honorable mention for Ben Hess. 2 strong starts in a row to start his career here. Another guy we're going to bring up is Clark Candiati, who is on the Padres and was Tom Candiati? I think he's, what was his name? Dad, whatever. He's his son. I think he's a knuckleballer, Candiati. But 8 strikeouts, 2 walks. Pretty good last time out for Mr. Clark Candiati with the Padres. Padres don't have a lot of depth. He's in high A, so I doubt he's up this year. But, just a name to watch. I don't know. I've seen stranger things. AJ Smith-Shawver went up to a 20-year-old jumping every level. So, it can happen. For A-ball, we're going to look real quick at Wei and Lin. He was in the T10 last week for the Athletics. Another insane start. Look at this. 9 strikeouts, 0 walks last week, 75% K rate, 66% strike rate, 27.7% ball rate. Look at this. This dude has on the season 24 strikeouts and 0 walks in 3 starts. And he did this in 47 pitches. 9 strikeouts and 0 walks in 47 pitches. Just subliminally efficient. Wei In Lin is a dude. This guy is a dude for the Athletics. Wei and Lin. Just look at him. Yesevich, good start for the Blue Jays. I think his problem is that they're going to keep him in A-ball for a little bit here as he's trying to figure things out. You can see you don't love that lower velo, but 10 strikeouts, 0 walks. Very good command here last week. And he's up around 60, 70 pitch count is what he's doing. So that is Trey Yesevich for you. Now we're going to look at a couple hitters in A-ball for honorable mention. We've got my boy Braylon Payne, who just continues to light things up. Let's see if we have StatCast data on him. He's in Arizona. I doubt it. No, we don't. But he is walking 19%, 22% K rate, 71% roughly contact rate is like, yeah, it's pretty good. But 300, 400, 500 slash so far on the season for Braylon Payne. And then lastly, Braden Montgomery. He should not be in A-ball. Just like I talked about Travis Honeyman, he's an A-ball. Braden Montgomery should not be an A-ball. Look what he's doing. 3.45, 3 bombs, just way too good. Over 1,000 OPS, 70% contact rate. Like, why is Braden Montgomery an A-ball? Put him to high A. This is not a guy who should be an A-ball. Way too good for that level. So that's the podcast. And next time we'll have Doc. He'll be wrapping up his film shoot because he's only there for a week. They're paying him for a whole week to film in Arizona. So we'll grill him on how his acting performance went. I believe, and this is the fun thing too, is I think he's playing someone in like the late 1800s, so it like fits straight into Doc Holliday. So I'm gonna definitely ask him if he got to shoot anyone on film, like what he did. Cause I don't know if he's like a cowboy or what. I just know he's in the 1800s, or if he's riding a horse or whatever. Like, we're gonna get into those things with Doc next time. So hopefully you enjoyed the pod. Follow on the Twitter machine at Fantasy Aceball. Also, subscribe to the podcast, please, on Apple Pods, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Tim Kanak. See you next time. Thanks for watching. Peace out, everybody.